Hey everyone, Andrew here, and today I have happy news, at least for myself. I finished the Nicholas Flamel series. That's right, I read all 6 books in the series, the last one being The Enchantress. The series overall has been a little bit up and down. The beginning began well and dove really low for the last 2 books. And this book actually is pretty good at points, and also pretty bad at points. So let's get right on into it. So where we left off on book 5. So Josh, Sophie, John Dee, and Virginia Dare have traveled back in time to Dennis Terrace. And there they are instantly greeted by 2 elders, Isis and Osiris, who turn out to be both. One of them is John Dee's master, who made him immortal, but they are also the parents of the twins. And if you remember, I slammed my head against the table a couple times because of how dumb that was. And it's still somewhat dumb, but they actually do explain why, and I will get to that when I get to that. The first thing that happens is that Osiris goes over and touches John Dee, removing his immortality. John Dee immediately starts to age and collapses, and Josh catches him, and he's like saying, "I don't want to go, it's too soon," and he feels this lump against Josh's chest, which is the pouch holding the last 2 pages of the Codex. He looks up at Josh, and John Dee's like, "Have you had that the whole time?" And Josh nods his head, and he's like, "Clever boy. We could have done great things together." And passes out. So Isis and Osiris decide that they're going to leave and have to go get some stuff ready for the twins' arrival. They ask Virginia Dare to escort the twins to their house next to the pyramid. And Virginia Dare agrees, as long as they fulfill John Dee's part of the bargain that she'll get her own world to control. But you find out through this and through this parts of the story that Virginia Dare is not as evil as she seems, that she's always been kind of a defender of the underdog. She doesn't like people holding other people under their will. So, because they run into a set of guards and she nearly slaughters them because of the way they were treating other creatures and other things when she was coming in. And that will definitely come into play a little bit later. But in the present time, we have the Flamels, and Niten and Prometheus have just defeated the big monster, and now know that they have to go and find a way back to Alcatraz Island. However, 2 of the elders, Quetzalcoatl, who is the elder who turned Billy the Kid into an immortal, and Basset, who is the one that overthrowed Aten in the last book and was a threat that tried to help destroy Yggdrasil in the first book, team up and release this group of creatures known as the Spatoli, who are an army of alligator-like creatures that walk on their hind legs and are basically known for being extreme warriors who slaughter everything within seconds that no one can stand against. And I love because they turned to Niten, and Niten just has this giant smile on his face because he finally met a foe that might challenge him, and he's just looking forward to it. And then, so same thing happens with Scathy a little bit later, where they're talking about the armies of the Anpu and the Berserkers and all these creatures that they're going to fight, and she just got this huge smile on her face because she's looking forward to the battle. So Niten and Prometheus decide that they're going to go and stop the Spatoli, who are going to be coming across the Golden Gate Bridge, and the Flamels decide that they're going to work their way towards Alcatraz to try and stop the monsters from getting loose. So they literally walk on water. They basically freeze the water at their feet as they walk and make their way across as it's breaking up while they're trying to walk across. Prometheus decides they're going to set up a funnel, basically using cars to make all of the Spatoli go down this narrow pathway to lessen the number of them that can attack at one time. Niten goes out to face them, and literally within 5 seconds, his unbreakable sword is snapped in half, and he gets stabbed in the gut, but he manages to kill the Spatoli that broke his sword. Him and Prometheus proceed to try to fight the Spatoli, overwhelming odds and extreme speed and strength. The Flamels make it across the ocean to Alcatraz. And there they realize that the cages that they were seeing before were all the smaller creatures, but there had to be larger creatures. Where could they be? And they travel into a part of the island and find this big, large travel ship, cruise ship basically, that has all the larger monsters in it, and it's being run by the brother of Quetzalcoatl. And they destroy the ship, but realize that they can't take on Quetzalcoatl's brother because he is an elder, and only another person of the same level, another elder, could take him out. So they know that they have to reawaken Aeronep, the giant spider who helped them before. Along the way, they run into the Morgan, who was the villain from the first book that Perenelle turned into a good guy by reawakening the sisters that shared her body. During all this, Mars, Hel, and Odin have been fighting off a bunch of the creatures, including the Sphinx, who is slowly draining them. But Billy the Kid shows up and takes out the Sphinx in a single hit. A pattern that is repeated multiple times throughout this of creatures going down in a single hit. It's like described as completely immortal, taken down in a single hit. But that happens a couple times, unfortunately. But Billy the Kid does this, and Billy, Blackhawk, and Machiavelli join with Hel, Odin, and Mars to try and find more of the monsters, and they end up almost killing... Basically, Billy the Kid launches his magic spearheads that he used to kill the Sphinx with at Perenelle before he knew it was her, and the Morgan jumps in front and takes the hit and dies instead. They figure out where the giant spider is, and it's in one of the Warden's Tower. They go to there, and they're trying to pass their energy into the cocoon to help the spider get out. And meanwhile, Quetzalcoatl's brother shows up with a bunch of Anpu, as well as a bunch of unicorns that have poisonous horns, and this creature known as the Karakinos, which is literally a giant crab, and is another master level one that can only be killed by something of the giant spiders or Quetzalcoatl's level. Knowing that they can't take on a force that big, and they're all but slowly losing the strength and everything, Odin asks Hel to help him with one more thing, and she removes his eye patch and starts announcing very loudly who he is and what his title is, and he steps out into the battlefield with her at his side and basically turns his empty eye socket into a laser and eliminates all of the Anpu and a couple of the unicorns in a single shot, but uses up so much of his power that he and Hel's power that he and Hel die instantaneously. And meanwhile, Billy the Kid and Blackhawk decide that they're going to try and take down the Karakinos, because if they can wrap ropes around its legs, it'll fall over and stop. Billy does something stupid and ends up being stabbed in the gut, and it starts slowing dialing, and Blackhawk gets thrown into the ocean. Never to be seen again. He kind of just disappears. They assume he was eaten by the Nereids, but in the last book, he got thrown into the ocean and survived. So I don't know. He probably did. He may have actually died this time. We won't know, because, like I said, they never bring him up again. Billy is able to survive because Machiavelli puts a lot of his power into it to keep Billy alive. The giant crab shows up and starts smashing through the tower, and Mars ends up sacrificing his life to protect the Flamels and Billy and Machiavelli. But the creature's still alive, so then they awaken Aeronep, and Aeronep proceeds to kill the crab in a single hit. During all this, Aunt Agnes, also known as Tsagaglalal, has put on her ancient armor and returned to looking like her original form. Turns out that she is one of the first people that were awakened by Prometheus, and she goes off to the Golden Gate Bridge to help fight against the Spatoli. She does this at the very beginning of the book, and she doesn't show up again till the very end of the book, which is annoying. She shows up, finds that most of the Spatoli are dead. She kills off the rest of them, and it's like almost a single hit, but finds Niten and Prometheus, and they have both been killed. Tsagaglalal unleashes this giant beam of energy into the air, and that instantly terrifies Quetzalcoatl and Basset, who basically run off to their cars and drive as far away as they can. Tsagaglalal knows that she has enough power to bring someone back, but only one of them. So she uses it on her father, Prometheus. Prometheus looks at her and is like, "What have you done? You chose the wrong person. Your husband Abraham told me how I would die. He said I would die on a bridge and then land that so strange to myself in a time long from now, and that would be an honorable death." And it's like, I have nothing to live for. I've lost my shadow realm. I've lost all the first men with the exception of her and her brother. But they don't mention that. And this, I have nothing to live for. You need to take this back and you need to give it to Niten. She does, and is like, he's dying, and he's like, tell Niten to go and rescue his love Aoife and to tell her that he wants to marry her, that she would return the feelings. And that's where that story kind of ends. You see her take Prometheus's life back and starts to give it to Niten. Anyway, back on Dennis Terrace, we had Scathy, Jones, Saint Germain, Shakespeare, and Palamedes, and the young Prometheus have all met up with Hecate at Yggdrasil and basically her main warrior, who is actually Mars. And they decide they're going to lead the humans to help. They're going to help the humans rescue Aten, because Aten was the previous leader before he was overthrown by Anubis and Basset, and Aten is the one who freed all the humans from enslavement. So all the humans love Aten, and they're trying to rally to get that back. But humans don't have powers yet. Haven't been taught or know how to use any kind of magic. They decide to do that. Scathy goes off on her own to the prison with Aten, or where Aten is, and Joan of Ark, Saint Germain, Palamedes, Shakespeare, and Prometheus end up on the top of Dennis Terrace's main pyramid, and they're told, like, you need to each pick a side of the stairwell down one of the sides and protect it. We all here for a purpose. During this, Josh, Sophie, and Virginia Dare have all gone to Isis and Osiris's house, and they're like, okay, are you guys actually our parents? You told us you would explain what's going on. What is this? And they basically tell them, like, we are your parents. We watched you grow. We taught you everything you are. Isn't it? Don't you know? It doesn't make sense. Like, when you wanted to go do things and do all these other stuff, we took you to museums and taught you history. We had you signed up for karate. We kept you guys around so you were always safe and protected. We've been planning this for millennia. This has been our plan for you, is that we, as your parents, everything in your lives has been towards getting you this. We're going to take you to the Council of Dennis Terrace. We're going to present you, and then we're going to make you the king and queen of this land. Because before Aten and his family ruled, it was always golds and silvers who ran the city. But you come to realize, and you start to understand that Isis and Osiris are definitely not good people, that they are very manipulative and are done everything that they've done when raising Josh and Sophie was to teach them to be obedient, to make them follow orders. And basically they try to bribe Virginia Dare, and she's like, sure, yeah, I'll do what you say, and then immediately runs off before they can do anything about her. And Josh and Sophie are presented with armor that's specifically like tailor-made for them. So one in silver, one in gold, and they are each given one of the 4 swords of power, that being Clarent, Excalibur, etc. And they are taken to the pyramid to be presented to the council. So, one of the things I liked about the beginning of this book was the fact that they killed John Dee within the first few minutes, until they took that back. Yeah, because basically shortly after being abandoned by basically everyone, John Dee is slowly dying, and then is visited by Marethyu, aka the Keeper of Death, who gives John Dee back a portion of his health and sight. So, like, he can move, but he's still very old. John Dee is like, why did you do this? Why did you save me? And Marethyu is like, the person whose book you stole would like to talk to you. Goes to meet Abraham the Mage, and turns out that this was all pre-planned. Everything that happened. The Flamels ending up with the Codex, John Dee finding out about the Codex, trying to kill them all the time, being unable to, finally succeeding. Everything that led up to the events that are currently happening in the book were all preordained and preseen by Abraham, and he manipulated it to have it happen. Because this is what has to happen to help make sure the humans survive. He basically tells John Dee that he has a very big purpose for this, that he does have some important part to play in what's to come, that he needs to go to the prison where Aten is, and what he needs to do will become clear. Virginia Dare, who's now on the run, ends up running into Marethyu, who sends her over to meet with Abraham. And Abraham tells her that it's like she was one of his favorite people, and you find out that everything that Virginia Dare has done has always been for somewhat of a good cause. That she took up stealing and magic to try to help get people food. That anytime that she had food, she would share it. If there's anyone in her, she would try to help them. That she became an immortal to this person that she couldn't stand because she wanted to have a longer life to help as many people as she could. And knew that Virginia Dare had a very big purpose for this events that are about to happen. Because the humans can't use magic. And the humans are used to being subservient. They need someone who can speak on their behalf. They need someone who will fight for them. And that person is Virginia Dare. So Virginia Dare ends up going to the prison and meets with John Dee. And they are demanding that Aten gets released. Scathy has gone to the prison and is like, okay, I want to see what's this specific thing that's going on. Because the person who is running the prison is her father, and she'd heard stories about how evil a person he really was, and he lives up to it. He definitely does. Scathy's father and Aten come out to the front, and Scathy's father is telling Aten, he's like, you need to tell them to go home. Tell them to leave, or I will slaughter them all right here and now. And Aten raises hands and basically, he's like, humans of Dennis Terrace, they want me to tell you to go home, but I'm telling you not. You are free. You deserve this world. This world is now yours. Scathy's dad's like, well, you asked for it, and basically has all the archers fire on the humans. And Virginia Dare, with the help of John Dee's power, is able to stop all the arrows in midair and spin them around and send them flying back. This enrages Scathy's dad, who kicks Aten off the top of the prison, but Aten is then caught by Scathy and survives. And then we get a lovely scene of John Dee basically dying because he helped use all of his power to do the magic to save the humans. And he's like, it counts for something, right? You know, I know I did lots of bad things, but this does count for something. Yeah. And yeah, but it's kind of a drop in the bucket of evil. It is something, but I don't know how much it actually counts for. Okay, so Josh and Sophie have gone with their parents to the pyramid, and basically are put in this room and are told, like, don't open this door unless it's us. And then Josh and Sophie immediately open the door when someone knocks on it, and it's a group of berserkers who are bear-like creatures. And they start to try to kill them, but young Tsagaglalal shows up and rescues them, and then takes them to the top of the pyramid where they see all their friends fighting alongside, and make it to the top of the pyramid, and Isis and Osiris are up there, and they're like, what are you doing? This is not what we've taught you to do. You are our children, you need to do what you say. And Josh and Sophie are like, are we your children? I don't think we are. Are you even our parents? Are we even brother and sister? And Isis and Osiris admit that they're not their children. That they found Josh in a Neanderthal camp, and that Sophie was found in Russia in the 19th century. So it's like they're not even close to being brother and sister. They're separated by 30,000 years or something. It turns out that Isis and Osiris aren't even elders. They are the older ones that are elders. They are Earth Lords, and that they are fighting to regain control of the Earth on behalf of the Earth Lords. That they are going to use Josh and Sophie's power to create a portal to bring the other Earth Lords back through time, from the past into the present. which is really interesting if you kind of think about it, that at the beginning of the story, you had the humans who had taken over the Masters, and the Masters are trying to overthrow the humans. And then you have the Earth Lords who are trying to overthrow the Masters and the humans. So it's just like every previous elder ruler is trying to destroy the one that replaces them, because no one ever wants to give up on power, apparently. Josh and Sophie decide they're going to fight their parents, and Sophie gets her ass kicked for like 2 minutes, and then Josh kills them both in a single hit with his swords. And it becomes clear to both of them that they are the twins of legend, that they are the actual twins that are talked about. That they have that one of them is supposed to save the world, and the other is to destroy it. And they realize that one of them has to stay and make Dennis Tiris fall. Because if Dennis Tiris doesn't fall, the humans never get to be rulers. They will always be servants. So Sophie doesn't have the strength to do it, and so Josh pushes her onto one of the Verminen, which is the UFOs they use to travel around, along with Joan, Saint Germain, Shakespeare, Palamedes, and Prometheus all get on that and take off, and Josh sits on the top of the pyramid with the 4 swords and fuses them together and ends up creating this 5th weapon called the Aoife. And it takes on the form of a silver hook, unleashes this power, causing the destruction of Dennis Tiris. Cut back to the present day. Nicholas and Perenelle are sitting on a bench on Alcatraz Island, having stopped the monsters, but have used so much of their power that their hair is basically clear. And Marethyu appears before them, and he reveals to them that he is Josh, and that he is here to take them back to Paris for before they die. And then that's basically the end of the book, except for a 2-page epilogue, which is written as a letter from Josh to his sister. And it's like, basically, part of it is like Sophie and all of the present-day people who ended up in the past stay in the past for a couple 100 years or something till the humans are able to stand on their own, and then they return to the present. Except for Virginia Dare, who I think just stays in the past. And then that's really not what the letter explains. That's just something Josh tells the Flamels. Anyway, Josh tells Sophie, it's like, don't worry about me. I've lived a millennia at this point. I've seen things that other people can only dream about and done things that people will never believe. And I'm happy with my life. And then he talks about how people have offered to change his hook into a more respectable hand, or like of gold or different, but he's grown attached to the hook, apparently. And basically, it's like, oh yeah, that it's like the Flamels were present for Aoife and Niten's wedding, where Scathy was a bridesmaid. It's literally like one sentence, and that's all you get on that story. It's like they don't explain exactly how in the world Niten managed to rescue Aoife, considering the only way they were able to get her, she ended up in the place that she did, was through the 4 swords that now no longer exist. But anyway, and then at the very end it just ends with a line of the Flamels send their love. And it's like, so it doesn't exactly say whether or not the Flamels are alive or dead. And that's how the series ends. And yeah, that ending kind of sucks, honestly. And like, the book was doing well. Like, this book does not have a lot of the flaws the other books had. The action's pretty good. The story's good. It's got a really good pace and really good energy to it. The only, negatives really are that every monster is killed with a single hit, and that certain chapters are way too short, or certain things get spent so little time on that you're just, start to forget that it even was happening. Like, if I didn't keep reminding myself that, Tsagaglalal was in the city trying to get to Spatoli, it's like she spent so much time getting to the Spatoli that they had time to set up the bridge, fight, kill almost all of them, and then die before she managed to make it that certain level distance. But yeah, and the ending, I don't like that ending. Is super rushed, and it's really bad. First off, no book should ever end on a letter, especially a 2-page letter that doesn't really talk about much of anything. Second off, him being Marethyu, that Josh is actually Marethyu, and this entire person that we've been following for the last 3 books a little bit is actually Josh as an older person, isn't bad, but the way to describe it in the book, like, is super confusing, because it's like he combines the swords, and it makes this new weapon, and they don't exactly describe it, but then it's like, then they're like, and then Marethyu stuck his hook into the tower, and I'm like, and I was like going, wait, where is Marethyu? When was he on the top? I don't remember him being a part of this. And then it's like, oh no, it's Josh turned into Marethyu. I got that when they explained it to the Flamels, but just, yeah. And then it's like, that ending, I was like, we barely talk about Niten. I don't know, I'm not certain if Billy's alive. I think he survived. I know Machiavelli's probably alive. Black Hawk is missing, and yeah, they said everyone from the past made it back to the present, but it's like, how many years, and did they age at all, or what? I don't know, honestly. It's a little confusing. And it's rushed, and it feels rushed, and it's like, and if at the end of this long of a series, you want a victory lap at the end. You want a good epilogue that tells you everything turned out alright, and these people are happy, and that have gone on to live good, fuller lives. Like, Harry Potter does a very good job of that. The entire future scene with them on taking their kids to the train to go to school, and you see that every single one of them has gotten married and had kids and has had this better life. That's the victory lap. This book needs a victory lap, and the best you get is a one-line sentence saying, Niten got married to Aoife, and Scathy was the bridesmaid. And then a second line of, the Flamel send their love, which should be translated as almost anything. It could be just him lying that they said anything, or it could be they're dead, it could be they're alive. He might have them in another shadow realm that just looks like Paris. I don't know. It's weird. And it's just, it felt rushed. It felt like something they it felt like the ending of a TV show when they didn't realize they were canceled and they just throw in a last line paragraph to say everything's fine or everything's done or whatever. Reminds me, like, there was a TV show called Quantum Leap that I absolutely loved. It's one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And it was all about a guy traveling from body to body throughout time, helping people out. And you get to the end, and the series got canceled. They were hoping for another season, and they got canceled. Instead of just ending the way they did, they added a one-line paragraph of, like, the entire series was building towards Sam, the main character, finding a way to go home. And the ending of the series is a one line that says, Sam never made it home. And that's depressing. And that's what this kind of book kind of did. It's like, even though this one's way more happy than that, it's still, like, depressing. And then it's like, because you also get points throughout where they're like, Josh and Sophie never are happy together again. I don't think they're ever allowed to exist in the same place again. And it's just annoying and kind of weird. Like, I think one of the problems with the story is that there isn't a lot there. They'll introduce people and you'll get, like, a blurb about them, but you don't get to know anybody, really. And it's really sad, because you get down to it and it's like a bunch of people died, but who died of important? Mostly elders died. Like, Mars died, Odin died, Hel died, and John Dee died, and Prometheus died. And that's it. And of those, the only one we really know much or anything about is John Dee and Prometheus. And they tried really hard to, do the, oh yeah, John Dee died a hero thing. And it's like, yeah, but he had to nearly die the first time to learn that he was a complete shit. And it's like, you get to this last book, which has time travel in it, and this time travel is so convoluted and so messy and so confusing, and it's just like, the heck is going on half the time? But overall, the book itself is pretty good. I'm not super unhappy with the way it is or the way it was done. This book, honestly, was better than the last two by far. It had a lot of good stuff to it. The action was good, and some of the stuff was good. But yeah, so honestly, I would give this one probably a 3.5 to a 4 out of 5. It's solid. It's not flawless. It's, like I said, it's got some stuff. But yeah. And as for the series overall, honestly, this series surprised me in some ways, and not necessarily in good ways and not necessarily in bad ways. It was a super easy read. It was a very easy to read series. Like, the stories were complicated but followable. the hardest thing in the world was trying to figure out how to say names that they just spelled for you, and I'm 100% certain I'm saying most of them wrong. Like, the story itself were fairly easy. They were really good. Like, all of the side characters are super interesting. The main characters, and Josh and Sophie, were not not that interesting, but they're supposed to be us. They're supposed to be the everyday kids thing. One of the weird things for me is, like, they kept talking about Josh and Sophie's power. It's like, you two are so powerful. You have powers beyond your imagination. And yet they never do much of anything with that. Like, I guess Josh does when he becomes Marethyu. But other than that, it's like not really that much ridiculous over-the-top magic, I guess. But it's like, it's got good story, good characters, got some good dynamics going on between them. It's got good action, really compelling parts to it. It's good. Like, you get a nice wide range of, like, mythologies, which is super cool. And the fact that all the characters that you meet that are mortals are all famous historical people or famous mortal type things. So that's cool. But there are definitely a lot of flaws with this. The story is very repetitive. There's certain books that you could, like, skip entirely. Definitely certain, like, there's certain people whose chapters you can just skip and be like, yeah. And it's like the main characters are not the most likable things, especially Josh. But Josh, like, this last book, Josh is fine. He doesn't mention the Flamels once. He doesn't do anything super stupid. Like he tried to save John Dee and make John Dee into a relatable, likable villain, but I don't think he succeeds at that. I think he did a better job with everyone else. Because at the end of the day, it's like, did John Dee do what he thought was best? Even he doesn't think so. I mean, he literally, like, when he was dying, all he was thinking about was all the evil things that he kind of did and how he kind of regretted some of the stuff that he'd done over the years. So, no, even he doesn't agree. It's like, overall, I would give the series maybe a 2.5 to 3 out of 5. It's got some stuff that works in it, but overall, it's kind of flawed. I'm happy I read it. I can't recommend it to anybody, though. It's like, you might like it. If any of this sounds interesting, read the first book. It's honestly, the first book is the strongest of them. Like, the first book, I would say, was probably a 4, and everything kind of went down from there. And then this last one kind of went back up, and then dropped down really hard at the end. It's a depressing way to end the series. Yeah. It's one of those things, like, I wanted a little more. And I did this with Will Grayson. Will Grayson had the same thing, but Will Grayson, I wanted a scene. Like this, I want an actual victory lap. I want a full epilogue chapter that's just, here's Sophie making it home and being with Aunt Agnes and Tsagaglalal. And is everyone happy and all these things, but we don't get... I want to know how in the world freaking Niten got Aoife out of that shadow realm. I mean, I know it's possible. I just want to know how. I want to know Blackhawk died. I want that if we don't see his body, he's not dead. Like, he needs to turn to dust in front of us. Otherwise, I don't count it. Sorry. And still, like, you still have Basset and Quetzalcoatl who are still out there planning. So it's like, it doesn't really change anything. The only difference is now is, like, Sophie will be in the present and will have enough power that she can probably help save the world anytime that she wants. Which also leads me to the question of, how in the world did Sophie manage to live a couple hundred years in the past before she came back? Like I said, it's flawed. It leads to lots of questions, some of which you will never get answers to. A solid series. Not a great series, but it's a solid series. Happy reading, y'all.